Thanks for joining us for the last session of the Atlantic Conference. I'm really excited to have Matador Mining present, an Australian-listed company, but their projects in Newfoundland in the southwest. They own the Cape Roy Gold Project. And today we have Ian Murray, who's going to present the story through what's going on in that area. Thanks for joining us, Ian.
My pleasure, Deborah. Thanks for hosting us.
Yeah, it's I'm excited to hear the story. Not a lot of people in Canada and North America know this project, so maybe you could do a quick intro of yourself and walk us through what's going on with Matador.
Yeah, so thank you. Yeah, I've been in the gold mining space, gold exploration and mining space for close to 30 years now. Started in South Africa, moved to Australia and ran a very successful exploration company that grew from $5 million to $1.5 billion by discovering a 6.5 million ounce deposit on an unexplored belt, similar to what we have here on the Cape Ray. So Matador Mining, Australian listed, but with the project in Newfoundland, Canada, and controls 120 strike kilometers of the very prospective Cape Ray Shear. So with that, I'll just take you through the presentation, Okay, so we're in the southwest of Newfoundland, as shown on that image, where the red area is. I'm sure all of you are very familiar with Newfoundland, more familiar than myself. But in 2020, despite COVID, we kicked off a very successful exploration program. Our current resources are 840,000 ounces, and all of that is contained within a 7.5 kilometer radius area on the Cape Ray Shear. Outside of that 7.5 kilometer radius area, there's been hardly any exploration. But for the 2020 drill season, we focused on a balance between greenfields drilling, testing new targets in the area, together with brownfields drilling of the known current resources. And for the first time in 20 years on this belt, there was a new discovery. So in the area in green, highlighted in the map in green, called Angus, this was a new discovery that we made in 2020 based on starting with the aeromag images that we had. We then followed that up with ground magnetic surveys and followed that up with drilling. And the discovery hole intercepted 20 meters at 2.4 gram per ton. So cracking first discovery hole in a brand new area, never tested before, and the first discovery within 20 years on this area. We followed up drilling in that Angus area, and we've expanded the footprint to 450 meters east-west and 300 meters north-south. It's still open in all directions and at depth, and we'll continue with further exploration on the Angus area in 2021. On the brownfields exploration, the two areas we focused on was central Window Glass Hill, which is just to the northeast from Angus, the area in orange, where we have a historic resource of 232,000 ounces at 1.6 grams per ton. The exploration we did there in 2020 was to expand the resource footprint, which we successfully did to the southwest. But in addition to that, we did some infill drilling at that resource, and we drilled a very deep hole. So this one hole, CRD 151, these are all intercepts from one single drill hole. So firstly, it's 10.5 meters at 2.4 gram per ton from 58 meters. We then hit a second mineralized system, 1.1 meters at 5 gram. And then we hit another one, 7.1 meters at close to 7 gram per ton. And then finally 2 meters at close to 7 gram per ton. This final one, the fourth intercept that we had in this drill hole, was outside the current resource pit shell area. So that is a new discovery below the currently modeled resource pit shell. The other three are within the pit shell, but they are wider and they are higher grade than the current resource model shows. So very successful drilling at Window Glass Hill. We move further northeast from that. We've got the central zone where which hosts the bulk of our resource, 562,000 ounces. We didn't do any drilling there because that is the most advanced project on the belt, with most of that resource in indicated category. But further to the northeast at Aux Morts is where we've been getting very high-grade intercepts. So historically, that was a 60,000 ounce resource at 2.4 gram per ton. And here are three of the highest grade intercepts we intercepted in this drill season. So 18 meters at 11 gram per ton, and that's from a depth of 7 meters. So very shallow material. That's close to a 200 gram meter intercept, which is the highest intercept ever encountered on the Cape Ray Shear. We've then got 20 meters at 5 gram per ton from 8 meter depth, and then 19 meters at 4.6 gram per ton from 8 meters. So very shallow intercepts at Aux Morts, very high grade systems at Aux Morts, and we're looking forward to further drilling on that target in 2020, in the 2021 season. So as I mentioned, a balance between greenfields exploration and brownfields. And on the greenfield side, we looked outside of these known resources and looked at the historic magnetic data, looked at the historic geochem and rock chip samples, and we've come up with 33 new targets across this belt which have never been tested. 12 of those have been prioritized for testing in the 2021 drill season. For the current resources of 840,000 ounces, last year in 2020, we published the scoping study for that project. Of the 840,000 ounces, roughly 500,000 ounces converts into mineable. In the first 4 years, we produced on average just short of 90,000 ounces of gold. And over the life of the project, we produced just short of 500,000 ounces of gold over the 7-year mine life. Very respectable NPV, together with a very high IRR. So at current gold price, that would be 277 million NPV and a 78% IRR, which is pretty eye-watering for an undeveloped project. Low operating costs of Canadian $1,118 an ounce, with a very quick payback of just over 1 year. So the key ratios for me in the project that we discovered and developed in Western Australia was make sure that your NPV is higher than your CapEx. And here we have an NPV which is almost double the CapEx. CapEx is close to 140 Canadian and NPV is just short of $280 million. The second key ratio is make sure that your life of mine that your payback period is less than a third of your life of mine. Here we've got a payback period just over 1 year and a life of mine of over 7 years. So this is a good starting point, and a scoping study, all it tells us is this project is economic and this project doesn't have any technical issues that will prevent it being developed. That is good. However, given the exploration potential of the Cape Ray Shear, we believe we can add to these ounces through the drill bit, and our aim is to get up to in excess of a 10-year mine life and around the 100,000 ounces per year of production. Once we know we're on that pathway, we'll then complete the pre-feasibility study and then the feasibility study so that we have a project that shows that it's got that mine life, which is respectable from a debt perspective and from an equity perspective. In terms of recoveries, we're getting recoveries in the mid 90%, and there's no technical issues that we've identified from the scoping study that will hold up this project from being developed and progressing further. So on to just Newfoundland, and from an Australian investor perspective, this is what jumps out at us. Firstly, Canada is one of the top mining and exploration jurisdictions in the world. It's where most of the majors operate, and everybody is comfortable investing in exploration and mine development in Canada. In Newfoundland, we have a very good relationship with the local government, very good relationship with the local communities at Port aux Basques and at Aux Morts. As you all know, very low power costs. In Australia, we'll be paying around 20 cents per kilowatt hour. We're getting numbers in Newfoundland of around 6 cents per kilowatt hour. Our project, as I showed earlier, is the red area, 120 strike kilometers on the southwest of Newfoundland. Our project is 25 kilometers away from Port aux Basques. At Port aux Basques, it's a major port. When we go to developing the project, we can bring in all the equipment that we need into that port. There are facilities, warehousing facilities, infrastructure facilities in Port aux Basques that we can tap into. We already have a presence in the town with our core logging occurring in facilities in the town. So first world jurisdiction, highly prospective. To the north of us, along the Cape Ray Shear, is Marathon Gold with their 4 million ounce deposit. We've got 847,000 ounces, and there's a gap between us on the shear zone that runs from our current discoveries through to Marathon Gold's Valentine Lake deposit, which has not been tested, which I'll talk a bit further in the presentation. So what we did at the beginning of 2020 was populate the traditional resource pyramid. But back then, all we had was the orange, red, and darker red of the pyramid. So those are our current resources. Central Zone, which already does have indicated resources, Window Glass Hill and Isle of Mort, and Big Pond, which have inferred resources. So the geological team in 2020 looked at all the historical data and identified 33 targets which had never been tested before. We tested the first one, Angus, and that's the one that I showed you earlier with 20 meters at 2.4 gram per ton and a footprint now of 450 meters wide by 300 meters north-south. So a cracking new discovery, and we can't wait to get on and test the next 12 highest priorities, which are in the advanced prospects area. The reason why this area is so underexplored is that the majority of the area has some form of transported cover. 90% of the belt has transported cover. Our current resources are where the mineralization outcrops at surface. So there hasn't been any exploration under cover yet. And when I'm talking cover, I'm talking between 0.5 meter to 5 meters of cover. So it's not very thick cover, but that has done enough to mask the geochem sampling, which has been, not much of it has been done, and that's where we see the opportunity. So if you look on this map on this page, I'm just going to highlight the rectangle area that hosts most of our resource, and if you extend that up to include Isle of Mort, that includes all of our resources. That's where almost all of the historic drilling has occurred. Over 100, well, close to 120,000 meters of drilling has occurred in this area. If you go north of that area, so from Benton, all the way up the belt, Malachite Lake, Benton 5, Moraine Lake, Otter Pond, there have been 20 drill holes in an area which, with a length of area, that's 105 strike kilometers. And that's phenomenal. To have an area that to the north is a 4 million ounce discovery, which Marathon Gold owns. To the south is 840,000 ounces that we've discovered, or the previous owners of the belt have discovered. And between that, there are only 20 historic drill holes. It is mind-boggling. And that's where we see the exploration potential on this belt. So if you look at the image below that, which is, again, our tenement outline, 120 strike kilometers. But what we've also got there in the blue pop-up blocks is the rock chip samples, the historic rock chip samples that we've got on this belt. So at Benton, we've got 191 gram per ton rock chip samples. However, if you look at the image to the north, there are only 2 historic drill holes in that area, and they weren't even assayed for gold. We move north of that to Grandy's Lake, 57 gram per ton, 1 drill hole. Further north, Benton 5, 19 gram per ton, 0 historic drilling. Moraine Lake, 17 gram per ton rock chip, 2 historic drill holes. So we've got this area that's firstly got limited geochem or rock chip sampling, and where we do have rock chip sampling that's got good gold grades, it's never been explored. So we're embarking in 2021 on a significant greenfields exploration program across this area. We will explore undercover, We've shown from companies we've been involved in before, we know how to explore under transported material, and the discovery we made in Western Australia, the Gruyere deposit, 6.5 million ounces under transported cover. So we've got the 33 targets now identified, and they've been ranked from priority 1 through to priority 5. We aim to test in 2021 as many of the priority 1 and priority 2 targets that we can. And proof of concept, going back to the Angus discovery, with Angus, we had the aeromag targets. We then did ground mag to get 30-meter spaced lines. We followed that up with bedrock drilling, and we discovered the new Angus area. That's the same strategy we're going to be rolling out here. The first thing we're going to do is fly aeromag, close-spaced aeromag at around 30-meter spaced lines across the belt to capture the information, interpret that information, interpret that information, follow it up with auger drilling to get the sampling through the transported material, multi-element assays of that transported material, together with diamond samples from the top of the fresh material. Again, where we will do 47 multi-element assays on those diamond samples that we take. Once we have all of that data and ranked and prioritized yet again, we'll then follow that up with bedrock drilling with a diamond program. When we look at our peers and the two Canadians that I'm sure you're all familiar with, Marathon Gold and Newfound Gold Corp. So Marathon's got the 4 million ounce Valentine Lake project in late stage studies, likely to be in development in the next 12 to 18 months. However, their market cap is $634 million Canadian. Our market cap is equivalent of $53 million Canadian. So we are significantly under lower value than them. However, we've got 840,000 ounces. So on a per resource basis, they're trading at $157 an ounce. We're trading at $64 an ounce. So a significant difference there. Newfound Gold Corp doesn't have any resources for now, and they're valued at $460 million. So again, compared to our two Canadian peers, we're significantly undervalued. And even compared to Australian listed companies exploring on mainland Canada, we are undervalued. What I will also talk about is the quality of the board that we've put together. I joined the company in May of 2020. As mentioned before, close to 30 years experience in gold mining industry. I was involved in the South African industry, where we ran 8 separate gold mines within the company that I was CFO and then managing director of. In Australia, I was executive chairman of a company called Gold Road Resources, where we controlled the Yamana Greenstone Belt, similar to the Cape Ray Shear. And there we discovered the 6.5 million ounce Gruyere deposit. The first thing I did on becoming chairman of Matador was to fill the board up with skilled people who have done this before. Justin Osborne is currently an executive director at Gold Road. He was involved in the discovery of Gruyere and the rapid move from discovery through studies into development and into production. He's come on as a non-executive, and he's assisting our exploration team in the project targeting. I then looked for the best project builder that I know, and Mick Wilkes is somebody that I've known over the years from being in the industry with him. Mick was president and CEO of Oceana Gold, and he built projects in the Philippines, in New Zealand, and in the USA, the Hale project. Mick retired at the beginning of last year. I reached out to him, and he's joined us as a non-executive as well. One of the best project builders that I've ever come across. And then we wanted somebody based in Canada who's known to the investors. Nikki Adchat-Bell is based in Vancouver. She's been with Sprott, she's been with Sun Valley, she's been with Haywoods, well known in the Canadian and the US space. A geologist, so obviously we want to have the majority of board members geologists, because at this stage we're still an exploration company. So those are the 3 non-executive directors. I will highlight Warren Potmer, our exploration manager that joined us in August. He has led the team in the targeting, the ranking and prioritization of the targets that we have for the 2021 season. So in 2021, we're likely to start off earlier in the season than we did in 2020. Obviously, we're fully aware of COVID. We've got a good team established on the island. We've got Spencer Vatcher, who runs exploration for us with his team of geologists. We've got a drilling company that we use with 3 diamond rigs. So they know how to operate in the region. Last year, we only started drilling, resource drilling in August. This year, we aim to be on the ground and starting work in late March into April. A longer season, the aeromag, the auger drilling, the diamond drilling, across the brownfields targets together with our greenfields targets. So that is the presentation overall. 170 million shares in issue, market cap around $60 million. We do have cash in the bank, $8 million at the end of December. So as a junior, we are well funded to carry on our exploration activities. We're operating in a first world jurisdiction with a very supportive local community and local government working with us. The scoping study has been done, which shows that we've got the building block for something much better and something much bigger. But we believe that through the exploration of the brownfields and the greenfields areas, we can add to the mine life and add significant discoveries into the portfolio. And together with all of that, we do see ourselves as significantly undervalued compared to our peers. We are not listed in North America at this stage, but that is something that we are actively working on at the moment. And I hope to come back to you at some stage with news on what our strategy is to get greater exposure and greater tradability in the North American market. Thank you, Deborah.
Thanks, Ian. That was a very interesting presentation. So for the audience, if you have any questions, feel free to input them in the Q&A box at the bottom. And yeah, I guess I have a couple questions. So when talking about these 12 targets that you've identified for your 2021 drill program, what would you view as a successful program as it relates to those 12 targets?
It's definitely converting them from conceptual targets into proven discoveries. So start off with the aeromag, follow up with the auger, and confirm that in the auger we've got gold mineralization in the top of the material. Follow that up with diamond drilling and get at least, if we're testing 12, I would like to have at least 2 to 3 of them confirmed as discoveries, where we can go back and then do a resource drill out in 2022. So the focus of 2021 is to move the projects up in the pyramid and then get them ready for resource drilling in 2022. If we crack a fantastic discovery in one of these targets, we'll do the resource drill out in 2021. And that goes back to what we did on the Yamana Belt at the Gruyere discovery. We discovered it in October of the one year. We had the maiden resource in August of the next year. So if a discovery is good enough, we will fast track it and move it into a resource drill out. But your question was, what do we see as success? And success is converting these 12 targets, some of the 12 targets, into proven discoveries ready for resource drill out.
And can you remind me again, those 12 targets, how far they are from your existing resource?
Oh, the range up the belt. Some of them are within that 7.5 kilometer radius area. So probably half of them are within 10 to 15 kilometers from where our planned process plant is from the scoping study, and the other half of them further north of that. But again, that's based on limited historical exploration work that was done. As we roll out the aeromag survey and we get the data from that, and then we roll out our auger drilling program, I'm hoping that we'll highlight a whole lot of new targets and better ranked targets through that program, because so little work was done in the past.
Got it. So some of the exploration this year will be going towards increasing the existing resource?
Yes, so we drilled in 2020. We haven't updated the resource on the back of that drilling. We want to carry on drilling those brownfields targets in 2021 and then look at the what the resource numbers look like at the end of the season.
Okay.
Our aim is definitely to show to ourselves and our investors that we're on the pathway to that 10-year, 100,000 ounce production profile, And to do that, we need to take our resource from 840,000 ounces to somewhere between 1.5 to 2 million ounces. And we want to show that we're on that pathway by the end of 2021.
Okay, makes sense. What is the effectiveness of soil sampling? Are there areas more suitable for systematic sampling?
Well, the soil sampling works where you don't have the transported cover, and given that 90% of this belt has the transported cover, soil sampling is ineffective in those areas where you have the cover. And that's why we've come up with this concept. In 2020, we used handheld auger rigs. That was quite effective, but slow. And that's for 2021. We've come up with the concept of using the power augers that we're going to attach onto the ATV vehicles and use those to get into the remote areas. And then for them to drill, they can drill down 20, 30 meters. So easily drill through the transported material. You then change the drill bit and you get the top of the fresh as a diamond sample for testing at the lab. So the auger sampling, the auger rigs will help us accelerate the soil sampling. So we're not just doing it at surface, we're doing it all the way through the transported material to give us far better indication of what the potential is.
Okay, thanks. You have quite a sizable land package. Is your intention to eventually explore this, or are you going to option part of it out? What's your strategy around that?
No, our strategy is definitely to explore it. Owning such a long strike extent is incredibly valuable. And as long as you can fund your exploration activities, it's worth hanging on to these tenements. I would only look at optioning them out if we were battling to fund the exploration activities across this belt. In fact, when I joined, we didn't have 120 strike kilometers. It was less than that. And what we've done is acquire additional ground to give us that strike length, which I think is incredibly valuable. We are the largest holder of tenement along that Cape Ray Shear. And we know Valentine Lake, 4 million ounces, is to the north of us. We know there's gold in the system. We've got a number of the discoveries on our own belt, but those discoveries have been tested over and over. Nobody's gone out and done the hard work under the transported material. So we know it's a pregnant gold belt. We just need to do that systematic work under the transported cover and make further discoveries.
Okay, makes sense. Well, thanks, Ian. I don't see any more questions, so we'll wrap it up there. I really appreciate you participating in the conference, and yeah, good luck with the program. I'm excited to see what results you get back this year.
Thanks, Deborah, and thanks for hosting us, and all the best. I think it will be a cracking conference. Thank you.